Hi, everyone, and welcome to the third podcast, third Anywhere Uni live podcast. Tonight, we have Kirill with us. Kirill is a student from Russia. He lived in many different places. He lived in Russia. He lived in Ukraine. He also lived in Singapore, and he's now living in the UK. Kirill studied the IB diploma back, I guess, in 2019, and I was his university counselor when I was working in London at the time. For his higher level subjects, he studied economics, English literature, and higher level film, and standard level subjects, physics, mathematics, and Italian ab initio. He applied to universities in the UK and got offers from UCL, LSE, King's, and the University of Bath. He already graduated from UCL and he's now a student at LSE. He graduated from a bachelor in politics and international relations. And at LSE, he's studying an MSc in psychology of economic life. So I guess we'll learn more about what this master's is all about, because it's a very unique master's that's not offered in many places, I believe. Hi, Kirill. Very nice to see you tonight. See you again after so many years.
Yeah, hi. It's really nice to see you too, and thanks for the invite.
It's great to have you on the podcast tonight. We're going to jump right in. And so my first question for you will be about the decision making. How did you decide to apply to universities in the UK? Why the UK and only the UK? And how did you decide on UCL for your undergraduate degree when you had offers from LSE as well and Bath and really top universities in your list?
Sure. Not to sound very boring, but I think that, well, the key to this decision was probably my family. We kind of negotiated, talked about what the potential pathways for me. I tried to kind of see what I want to do and balance that with my parents' ideas, because sometimes might be hard to reconcile with different notions. And then also we thought that as a family unit that universities and higher education in the UK is still one of the best in the world. And you have a nice start, like a platform for you to grow as a person. And why specifically UCL? Well, because I think if you ask many students from top 5 London universities, they're mostly rejects of Oxbridge. So I was part of that too. But jokes aside, I think the UCL is one of the best unis to start your bachelor's. But I think we can talk about it a bit later on. Why specifically my bachelor's in politics and international relations is because it's just a wide scope of many different disciplines like sociology, politics, economics, etc. So I think it just gives you a very nice start for the future career.
All right, great. And so how did you decide between your 4 offers?
I looked at the websites of different universities, trying to see what the course content would be and kind of mentally prepare myself for what I will have to go through. Also, the student life, like aspects of that, like societies, clubs, and like academic support, and also geographical locations. I prefer to stay in London. That's why I was mainly focusing between LSE and UCL for my bachelor's and King's. Also, obviously, academic rankings are very important, and UCL, I still think it's one of the top 10 universities in the world. I think number 8 based on rankings from last year. I also contacted a few people, the previous graduates on LinkedIn, and asked about their kind of student satisfaction and their opinions. So that kind of guided my choice.
So did you contact random students that you didn't know on LinkedIn to just talk about the program and what they thought about it?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, we didn't have this platform like what you have at the moment at the time. So I had to do it in a very raw mode of just going on LinkedIn, trying to network, approach people and be like, hey, can you give me some opinion? I promise it's not going to affect your final grade. I'm not a spy. And that's pretty much it.
And people got back to you, and so you actually got to talk to some people and got some insight about the experience at LSE and UCL.
I think the key there, as in life in general, is persistence. So a lot of people left me unread, but I didn't give up. And maybe out of like 50 different requests of just asking for advice, I got like 3, and 2 of them were actually quite relevant to my course. So,
wow. Yeah. See, so that's a very good, I think, insight for students. Sometimes you just go for it. You try 50 and you get 3, but these 3 can be life-changing in terms of your decision making and can really bring something different. So that's great. Thank you very much. And so what about, how was the transition? So you were already living in London. So you were an international student, but at the same time you had a few years living in the UK, living in the London area before starting your course. How was the transition from the IB, you were in a private international school, to life as an undergraduate student at UCL?
I have to mention that I was the unfortunate COVID generation. So my transition to higher education, UCL in particular, was quite interesting and unique, I would say. Obviously, I didn't have Freshers Week. Everything was moved onto online. But because of that, I think there were a lot of services offered by UCL at the time that helped students like me to transition. Even any kind of academic support, mental support was on point. In terms of how I managed to transition from this high school mentality to university mentality, I think that COVID year really helped because it kind of gave me that year of actually adjusting to this wow factor of, wow, I really have to study way more. The workload is intense, especially for a university like that and a course like that. But I think what helped me a lot is that at ACS, there were a lot of workshops that were done by people like you that prepared us to from basic things like how to cite properly, which is a really big thing, I must tell you, especially in year 1, and how to approach the academic readings. That was also one of the key things to successful integration. But I'm happy to talk more about it if there are any specific questions about it.
It's great to because I mean some students had terrible experiences with COVID, and it really threatened them to even succeed and be able to manage and move on through their academic journey at university. So it's good to hear that for some students you actually saw the positive in it, and you managed to actually use that as a way to transition to university, I guess, because you came from quite a small school. And UCL is a massive university, and sometimes we're afraid that students that remain in these, smaller international schools where there's a lot of people supporting you, supporting the students, and towards their journey, and then they get to these massive universities where you're kind of on your own and you have to find your way. Did you feel that at all? Did you feel like it was a transition? Did you feel like you were prepared, even if you came from that smaller kind of cocoon of a international school?
I think that starting with year 2, when my actual uni experience began, I did feel that it was very challenging at first to integrate into this wide scope of things, as you must imagine. I think UCL has 52,000 students and 25,000 of those are undergraduates. So you must imagine that there are a lot of people and can be quite anxiety inducing at first. But I think the key here is to find the right groups of people, which can be done through being proactive in terms of your direct academic courses, because you obviously will future students will be engaged in different seminars, so you end up making friends even if you don't want to, but you still have to work on different projects, so you still end up being with someone and not alone. Also, universities and such big universities like UCL are very famous for a large variety of societies and clubs. So I think that's the key there. You really feel that university experience when you're part of a particular, for example, sports society, and you go on Wednesdays, for example, UCL, we had the sports nights. And you go to a bar and you do your usual bar student things, but also you feel that energy of a community there.
Okay, so how? Because I know for students are always very keen on London universities. They feel like, London is such a vibrant city. It's a city that attracts a lot of international students. And sometimes I kind of warn the students saying, like London is not the easiest city to transition into compared to campuses like Bath or Warwick, for example. You had the advantage of living there already, to have family there. But how did you make your friends? Were you living at home? Were you living in a residence? How did you make your first friends? I know you had that year that was kind of the COVID year that's kind of out of the reality of what university transition is usually like. But can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah. In year one, I lived at home because accommodations were pretty much closed
Yeah.
due to COVID. And there were a few brave people who did manage to get accommodations, but that was a very tough experience for them, I must tell you. But starting year two, year three, I lived alone with my friend. Not from UCL, from Holt, but and how do I make friends at UCL? I think that I first started engaging in a group chat because most of the courses would have a WhatsApp group chat or Telegram group chat. And although bachelor's courses usually do have quite a lot of people, 200 or 240, we had 220 people. There's still some cocoons of like-minded individuals whom you can contact. And if you're proactive enough, and you can just say, does anybody want to go to a pub, for example, and just discuss the readings? Usually you don't end up discussing the readings, you just end up discussing life. So that plus, as I mentioned, societies and clubs, the key. I love playing football and film. So just balance that too. So I had kind of sports friends and pretentious film buffs. So I kind of managed to integrate my own personality there. And I think that what I found particularly interesting is that when there are different cross-university events based on different interests or particular societies, you do end up meeting a lot of people from other universities. And obviously, as the years go by, as you progress to your degree, you do end up kind of bonding with those people too. And then this is quite a big network of universities. So I still have friends from King's, from London Metropolitan University, Imperial. So I think the key there is whether or not you are a very sociable person or not, you still have an opportunity to naturally meet with people. So
Yeah. So I think in London universities, it's not going to be given to you. You're going to have to make the effort. As you said, like there are lots of opportunities out there, but you have to be proactive. You have to find these opportunities. You have to join these clubs. You have to go out of your comfort zone. If you stay in your student room or your dorm and you don't try, I think that's where it can get really tough in London, and it can feel quite lonely. Did you know it? Yeah, go ahead.
You just won't end up having a proper university experience, in my opinion, because I think that you obviously would want to have a nice grade for your future academic journey into master's or future PhD, or your potential boosting your chances at employability. But to maintain like a level of successful cognitive engagement, you still need to have your mind and body relaxed. So for that, you obviously need socialization, which is the most important thing. Sort of like secondary socialization is the most important thing for us, and sports activity. And if you can combine two through those, as I mentioned, like I'm sorry I'm stressing this, but a lot of people that I've seen at UCL, they didn't use those opportunities and did end up having very tough second, third years, especially during the graduation, when you see a lot of people bonding together and experiencing that final moment, the shared collective experience, and some people are still sitting kind of by themselves, which is really hard, obviously. But you do need to maybe step out of your way, kind of change or look away from that small private school, if you went their mentality, and try to kind of be responsible for yourself, because I think the key difference between high school and university is that you do end up having a lot of discretion and decisions that you have to make for yourself and on your own.
Yeah, I always tell that to my student. I think when the few students I've seen in my career that kind of fail their first year at university or stop mid through their bachelor degree and complete their bachelor degrees is because they didn't find their people, they didn't find their friends, where they felt supported. And because university is tough, you said, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of pressure, it can be a lot of stress. If you don't have that, positive side to comfort you, to see that there's other people going through that with you, that experience the same thing, and you can share all that together, I think it makes it very, very difficult. So I think it's a great point, and you're correct to stress that out. It's very important. And the other point I want to raise here, when you said you had friends from other unis in London, like King's and Metropolitan and Imperial. So what that means is that a student from London Metropolitan University, which could be considered as a lower ranked university, can still network with students that would be studying at Imperial, at UCL, at King's. And so a student that would study in a university that's maybe not as known might end up with a better network at the end of their bachelor degree if they make that effort to connect, to network through that bachelor degree, compared to students that went to Imperial or UCL and stayed on their own and didn't talk to anyone. And maybe they have the nice degree with the nice, top university on there, but they haven't developed their network, they haven't developed their social skills, and long term, it probably that degree is kind of not going to be fully used, I would say.
100%. I think it's more of a social stigma to think that if you hadn't made into a top 5 universities in London, then your career prospects are somewhat undervalued in the future. Completely not true. Even just to diverge a bit from personal experience, when I was researching some people for my work for the VC funds, etc., a lot of people that I see, they have graduated from not like the best universities considered by those, very subjective rankings,
Yep.
Still end up owning the companies, and people who work for them are actually those, best of the best. So I think it's as you mentioned, I think the key here is networking. And if I may give like one concrete advice, is to open and LinkedIn, create a profile. My father always used to tell me since day one, just work on your LinkedIn, get the right connections, talk to people, ask for advice, and this will do magic to you in the future.
Yeah, it's a great advice. And yeah, so I'm just gonna dig a little bit deeper on that. We have so many students, of course, they have stars in their eyes when they talk about these top ranked university, Oxford, Cambridge, UCL, LSE, Imperial, King's, and sometimes it's hard for them to look at other universities. Now that you've been through it, what would you say? Would you say, and because you also have friends from other universities, would you say it's worth fighting for? Would you say that for some students, maybe it wasn't the right decision and they would have been better off in a different kind of environment? Do you see a downside of being part of these elite institutions? What's your take on that?
I think the key here is to find what you're most passionate about, and try to see what kind of university meets that kind of passion and your expectations. Because if you will end up getting a place in top 5 universities, like speaking from experience, UCL, yes, it is one of the best unis in the world, and it will have this, undeniably will have a factor when somebody will be screening your application for the potential internship or future work. But at the same time, your uni experience will be very hard if you're not prepared for what comes with that. What I mean by that is that it's not such a good university in terms of the ranking for its name. You would have to work very hard. You would have to plan, have to make certain sacrifices in terms of your private life and potentially your mental health. But I do not think that, as I've mentioned, if you do not make it into those top big names and have that nice name on your CV, it means that you're done. I think as I've said, the key is to find something you're passionate about. And if you are not able to go into the university of your dreams, find another university that still can provide you an opportunity to grow as an individual, as a person. So yes.
Yeah.
So
And sometimes from what I can see, you have a bit more space in these universities that maybe are not as elite, and maybe the pressure is a bit lower, and then you can do more things outside of your coursework. So it can also be a great experience that can definitely be life-changing as well. So that's going to give me a nice transition into academic life at UCL. So can you tell us a bit more about, so you signed up for a bachelor in politics and international relations. In the UK, we know degrees are very specific. So how was your academic experience, academic journey? Was it what you expected? Can you tell us a bit more about that?
I would say, as Albert Camus used to say, that one must imagine Sisyphus was happy. So it was very, very challenging. At times it did feel like I'm just trying to move the rock up the mountain, and then it just ends up going backwards. But I think overall, one of the best experiences of my life, and I'm not saying this just because I'm getting sponsored by UCL. I would say that there are divisions in terms of what kind of bachelors you might get. So I was specifically focusing on bachelors of science, which meant that I'm not just doing the essays and the humanities part of this, but also statistics and different kind of methods. So that kind of integration was extremely hard because you have to do usual kind of exams paired with the statistical analysis. But thinking about this in hindsight, I think this kind of gave me the best possible start of where I can go, because I can apply the qualitative methods, the quantitative methods, and pair it with the humanitarian kind of humanities side communication. In terms of the content itself, I think it was very heavy. I think the UCL is widely known for very hard content when it comes to natural sciences and social sciences.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the key there was proper time management. I had a very kind of severe and very interesting, I would say, schedule of how I would manage my work. And then another advice that I might give from my experience is manage or kind of think about your readings and your work strategically. You won't end up reading every single academic paper. You have to think what kind of academic papers help you achieve what you want to achieve, and help you learn what you have to learn. And then third point is, in terms of the experience, I'd say it wouldn't have been the same without the cohort. So I think because I've had enough friends around me to kind of help me push that rock, it kind of went more or less smoothly over the 3 years.
Right. Yeah. So it's a very, very interesting point for our students that are listening to this. Sometimes they get confused, Bachelor of Arts, BA, and Bachelor of Science, BSc. And then here you're doing politics and international relations, which sounds like what should be a BA. And then you did it as a BSc. And so you explained that the difference is that if you do that kind of degree, politics or international relations, as a BA, you might not have that more quantitative statistics-based side. And if you do it as a BSc, you will have all these foundations that would allow you to also apply to more quantitative and Master of Science later on. Am I correct?
Yes, 100%. And there was a compulsory courses as well. When you do any BSc, you would have to do or undergo the training in both methods. But you for your dissertation of a third years, you can opt out for one particular method. And I think that's pretty much in almost every single course at UCL and LSE as well.
All right. Okay. And so these kind of bachelor degrees, it's also another interesting point, is that sometimes we have students that are kind of scared to study such a degree like politics, international relations, because they feel like I need something that's going to give me a job. So I need to study medicine, I need to study law, I need to study business right away, I need to study engineering, architecture, something that feels like that's going to give you a job. And so sometimes when you look at the social sciences and sociology and politics, kind of things, history, anthropology, they get scared to study this kind of subject, even if they really like it, or their parents will put a bit of pressure saying, don't study that because that's not going to lead you anywhere. So what's your perspective on that? And when you look at yourself and also your other friends that did the same degree, is everyone studying a master's now? What do you think about that?
You're right in saying that a lot of people from my cohort, they chose politics and international relations because of external environment around them. So the parents forced them, or the potential, this kind of idea that this particular course will get you employed at McKinsey, or get you an invite into the House of Lords, House of Parliament. I think I think that once again the key here is, if you're passionate about it, if you understand that there is something that kind of tickles your interest about this particular course or any course, and even if it sounds like a very hard undertaking, I still think that if you have that interest and genuine passion for the subject, you will be able to persevere, and actually probably not even persevere, you will enjoy this, because I think you will agree with me that the job that you are doing, you probably enjoy it, and it seems like a hobby to you. So when you wake up every day, you're probably looking forward to making this podcast or working on the platform. Same with this degree. If you choose something that motivates you to wake up and go to uni, see your peers, dive into academic papers that sometimes so dense that I don't think the writers themselves would understand what they wrote. So yes, I hope I'm answering your question.
Yeah, no, totally. So when you're 15, 16, and students that look at the US or countries like that, they might have degrees that are open enough that they don't have that pressure. But when they're looking at Europe and the UK, like, how can you figure out what you're going to be passionate about, especially when you see these kind of degrees that are not taught in high school? In many systems, you can't study psychology in high school, or anthropology, or archaeology, what would be your advice to a 15, 16-year-old student that's thinking, how do I find my passion?
Well, first, I think it'd be interesting probably for people on the platform to know that even though these courses sound very specific, most of the bachelor's courses at UCL LSE, they just sound very scary. They give you, especially in year one and year two, if you opt for modules that are very wide ranging, you can get a lot of experience in different areas. So talking from experience, I wasn't particularly interested in the philosophy side of the political science, because I think you can read something like this at home very comfortably on the couch. But I was interested in the economics, and my uni provided, and the course provided different modules in political economy of East Asia, or political economy of the Western societies. So I think that's the key there. You just really need to look through the course or the particular degree, and see maybe there are certain things that would interest you. But when you're 14, 15, I would say that try to understand what interests you in your high school curriculum. So, for example, if you remember, we had this teacher, Mr. Schwartzman, and he used to be a politics teacher of mine. And before him, I used to think that politics is just a lot of people lying. Now I understand that that's also the case, but it's a bit more complicated than that. And I think if there are certain teachers that inspire you, that's also the key. And I think just in general, like looking at young me, I just remember that I was always interested in literature, looking at the curriculum and politics, and this kind of combined together into thinking, okay, what kind of degree might be similar to those kind of interests. And then I went online and tried literally to type politics literature degree. And then obviously that doesn't exist yet. But then they kind of helped me narrow my scope. And then I just went through different universities one by one and tried to look for their programs, tried to look at the descriptions, the requirements, the summer readings, because if you're interested in the summer reading, you probably will be interested in the entire course overall.
Yeah, I know something that's not the most fun, and sometimes I struggle to get my students to look into the course description and what's taught in year one and what's taught in year two and compare the courses. It's not easy for a student that's not there yet to project themselves, but it's so important because it makes such a difference in their life when they get to university, the type of courses they're going to have. So I think it's a very good advice you gave here. So let's move on to your master's degree. Quite a fascinating title. Tell us more that LSE Psychology of Economic Life. Like, how did you choose that master's and why?
First, I had the pragmatic consideration that the longer one's degree sounds in the CV, the more professional you look, and I think that pays off.
That's the longest one you could find.
Exactly. And then but if you think about it, politics of international relations and psychology of economic life sounds like a bit of a mouthful. But apart from that, I was always fascinated by psychology and obviously economics based on the modules that I used to take in politics and international relations at UCL. But then I looked at the description for this particular course, Psychology of Economic Life, and it really kind of moved me in the sense that it looked at the intersection between the human mind and what we can possibly do and affect individuals to produce particular systemic changes in the sphere of economics and business and public and private all combined. And also what was particularly interesting is that this course has tilt towards ECG or environment, society and sustainability and governance. And I think that was also one of my considerations when looking into this.
Okay. And so how was that transition to LSE, and did you take any gap year? Did you do any internships? How are you building your path towards the career that's kind of coming soon now?
I did not take any gap years. My personal opinion doesn't have to resonate with everyone. I think that taking a gap year would be a very bad disadvantage for your career in the future. I have a few friends who did take gap years after my degree, and now they're struggling to find any jobs because I think that the job market is highly inflated if you are to stay in the UK.
Was it, just to clarify, was it a gap year where they were traveling or were they working in like internships?
Oh no, not working at all. I meant just traveling. I think if you won't take a gap year, it's better to take a gap year after having taken or finished your master's. That kind of gives you a bit more time, in my opinion. The transition overall, I think it was very smooth because obviously LSE is like 20 minutes away by bus from UCL. So it's the same kind of environment, same kind of, demographics, et cetera, et cetera. I think in terms of how this helps my career progression, I think this was what.
Yes, like how do you? Because I've seen students in the past, especially in London, because in some countries you kind of get lots of internships kind of ingrained in your bachelor degree, in your master's, and you kind of get to the job market with like a year or two of experience throughout your study. And I know in the UK, I've known students that haven't done any internships and have done two strong universities like King's, LSE, and they end up at the end of their masters with no experience on their CV, and they struggle to find a job, and the transition is not easy. So
I see. Coming I will try to relate it to one of the first parts of our conversation about the rankings of the universities as well.
Mhm.
From my perspective, it's not enough, and I agree with you, to have just a good name or any name of the university on your CV. You need to balance it with some kind of experience. And obviously, it's very hard, especially when in year two and year three. So, what I would recommend, what I had in year two, I started working for the student union.
Okay.
I think student unions are pretty much in every single university, as far as I can tell. And the student union provides a large amount of jobs based on your liking. I was always really into creative writing, so I was just writing a lot of posts, blogs, and news articles for them. But you can even work as a bartender, which is very important. I must say, probably the most important person at student union. And other jobs like academic mentors. So I think that's the key to think about working for the union. And in terms of pay, they pay quite well, above the national minimum wage.
So would
Uh,
international students be eligible for that?
yes, yes. Everyone is. You do sign a contract. You cannot work as a sports person for some reason if you're on a student visa and you're an international. But I don't think many people would opt out to, do badminton courses for kids. In terms of the internships, I think we'll also cover this later, but it's completely paramount to use the career services at your respective universities. At UCL, because UCL is such a big university, as I mentioned before, it has a very sophisticated career service. What I mean by that is that there's a specific team of people who help you to guide you through your CV, through potential interviews. And coming back to the internship side of your question, they send you weekly vacancies of different startups or companies that are looking for interns for the summer or throughout part-time interns throughout the duration of the course. So in year two, at the end, I managed to get a part-time job at the startup through UCL Careers, and I'm still currently working there. And also, giving a bit of advice, I would say try to do this because leaving something just for the summer sometimes gets very hard and complicated, and the competition for those kind of places is very severe, especially in London. But if you manage to get some kind of part-time job throughout your year or throughout your degree, you would be an enormous competitive advantage because one, you would have those years of experience. Two, you would manage to cultivate the essential skill of managing your time. And three, you will become completely ready for a very intense environment that awaits you in the future, in the real life.
All right, good. Thank you very much. So I'm going to loop back a little bit. I just talk about a bit about the student atmosphere at UCL. What would you say? Did you feel like the international students were kind of hanging out together? Was some group kind of not talking to each other? Were the British students mixing well? Did you feel welcome? Did you feel any kind of tensions on campus? Like, can you give us a bit of the real experience there between the students and the dynamic between students at the undergraduate level?
Inside information. Yeah, I would say I was always welcome there. There were no stereotypes about me riding a white polar bear and drinking vodka, so that was very interesting and nice. And there are definitely divisions in terms of cultures, and hence cultural societies. One of the biggest societies in UCL, especially German society, Eurasian society. But I think I never experienced any discomfort in terms of integration or my ethnicity or any other cultural background. I think that overall it's a very welcoming university, and there's a lot of support if you don't feel that way, and they're very keen on addressing issues if you flag them. And then I also think because, as I mentioned, there are 52,000 students and 25,000 undergraduates, uh, obviously there are divisions, but there are so many like-minded individuals. And because it's such an international university, everybody is kind of in the same position as you, and everybody is looking for a friend, everybody is looking for a connection, and the kind of those groups and connections, they merge, they come and go, and that's part of the university experience. And as we were saying in the beginning of this call, I think the key here is just to be proactive. So yes, I hope I answered.
No, it's great to hear. So let's move back even further back when you were in high school, and let's talk a bit about the application process, because that's where our students are or will be very soon in a few months. I don't know if it's too far for you, but can you recall a bit what the process was like, and would you have any advice on how to approach these highly selective, highly competitive university applications in the UK?
Well, yes. So first, I think you can't expect that if you were not serious in high school, then all of a sudden you'll get accepted into
It's not magic.
the dream university. I think secondly, use the services in school. We had you, luckily, and you helped us a lot with different workshops. And I think at the time I didn't pay any attention. I must tell you, and I'm sorry about this.
Truth comes out.
But now I do quite regret that. I think that even though at the time it seems like a lot of people telling you a lot of unnecessary things that are common sense and so far away, but reality and life comes at you and hits you very fast. So I think using the high school services is key. Secondly, you kind of need to have how I would approach it, how to approach it again, have a few options. Do not just focus on one or two best universities. Always have plan C, plan D. And I would say that also a nice idea would be to diversify your choices. So if, for example, you think that, okay, I'm really good at politics, I want to do politics, and it doesn't happen because your grades don't reflect that or some other, external circumstances, you might have, or might think about the option B. Maybe I'm also good at arts, for example, and then you can think about the arts universities. Thirdly, when approaching the application process, as far as I remember, you need to do it through UCAS in the UK.
Yes.
And you need to write the personal motivation letter, et cetera, et cetera. I think here the key is one, try to look through the previous statements, and I think you provide those services on your platform, and then try to see what is the general structure of those statements, because usually they're screened by very quickly, and they're looking for just keywords because there are thousands of students applying every year. Then I would say write it with passion, like a draft from the heart, I would say. So sorry for being cheesy.
No, that's good.
I think then come back to the university, high school university advisors, ask them to kind of screen your statement, your application. They would do it because obviously I think it would make you even more happy if a lot of your students would go into the best universities or any universities. And then last one, I think LinkedIn. I don't know if LinkedIn might be a potential competitor, but asking people who just kind of finished their first year, who were like in the same position a year ago, for their advice is also key. So
I always am a big advocate for LinkedIn. I try to get all my students on it because it is great to start networking early and to start building that profile early on. All right, thank you very much. So we're almost towards the end of our podcast here. Do you have any regrets? Anything you would have done differently throughout this academic journey from high school to an IBDP to where you are now, LSE and masters?
Not to sound very pretentious, but I do think that regrets are just like these things of thinking of what could have been that never was. You just retrospectively thinking about your lived experience and knowing that most people are serial complainers. I would probably complain or regret something else in this position. But obviously, I wish that I've probably paid more attention in class, probably kind of structured my day and time management a bit differently. But in terms of more kind of practical practical conclusion from the experiences that I would have lived differently, I would say that if I were to see myself 4 years ago, I would just tell myself to have kind of eyes on the horizon, but mind present. And what I mean by that is that eyes on the horizon just have some form of an outline of where I want to go.
Mhm.
And it doesn't mean that to have a particular outline of your career step by step, because
That's
life,
supposed
yeah,
yeah.
life is very famous to kind of joking about your plans. But think about what makes you unique. And like what my parents always used to tell me, like since childhood, is that try to think of what differentiates you from other people. And I think a lot of people, especially like high schoolers today, in this kind of age of information overload and the kind of homogeneity, I think that a lot of them think that they don't have any special talents, and everybody does. We're like every single person is a kind of small universe with different constellations within. So I think cultivating the thinking about what makes you different and where this path can lead you is the key. So that's the part about the eyes on the horizon. And then mind at present, I think, especially when you go into uni in year one, a lot of people will tell you have to do this, you have to do that. There needs to be this and that, and this is how you need to approach to this framework. But I do think that year one, especially year one, is for you to try things, to take risks, to be in the moment. And if you just think about it, it's like you have this giant field of many opportunities for you, and you're trying to see like where you're kind of you can throw your seeds everywhere and see where something grows. And then from year two and year three, you can cultivate that soil for your growth. So I think yes. So eyes on the horizon, mind present, and just lastly, uh, practical advice: LinkedIn. I know I said this so many times today, but that's what really makes the difference. Your network, and not just like randomly clicking on different people and try to have as many followers as you can, but being strategic, like thinking about what kind of industries I want to go into in the future, asking those people for advice, because the thing that all of the people in the world like doing is talking about themselves. Hence, I'm here today. So I LinkedIn, and then manage time and be selective in terms of what you're doing. And then third one, I think I already mentioned that about kind of balancing your kind of cognitive stimulation with your actual life and socialization.
I love the balance between the constellation within and the philosophical advice here, and then just go on LinkedIn and very concrete, and the balance between the academic and the social life as well. I think that's a great to share that with us, Kirill, tonight. Very helpful, and I think that gives you a very good perspective for students to reflect a bit. Is there anything else you want to share before we conclude?
Well, apart from I encourage everyone to go onto your platform and use it. I'm also very happy to, if you can share with people my LinkedIn. I'm sorry, I feel like I'm the ambassador of LinkedIn today. I'm very happy to give any
Connect with
or
students.
share my statements. So anything that I can possibly do to kind of help with the.
That's great. Thank you so much, Kirill. Thank you very much, everyone. And we'll see you on the next live podcast at Anywhere Uni.